someone hit me with a hammer. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? No success. There was no success. We should just do more, think less. It was probably the first time when I asked for feedback.
Hello. Welcome back to the Good Soup podcast. I'm Paulina, and today we are chatting with Daria. This one person we all need in our career, the person who hires for our first job. And Daria actually doesn't even remember that I did not have any marketing experience when she hired me 7 years ago. And it's funny because it shows how little people actually judge us, much less than we think they are. And I was just really excited to talk with Daria because even though we were in touch all these years, I was really curious to hear more of a behind the scenes stories, all wins and fails, ups and downs, and have an honest conversation about how to grow your marketing career. Let's dive right in. Welcome, Daria. Today we are going to talk with Daria, who is a VP of Marketing at Cytora. And she's also my very first marketing manager. Yay! So yeah, Daria and I, we met at Sauce Labs 6.5 years ago. And since then, she's built a great career in marketing and tech industry. You were a director of marketing at your previous company. Now you're a VP of marketing. So congrats and welcome. And we're excited to learn about your journey.
Yeah, thank you for having me. You make my career sound a lot more successful than I think of it.
I think that's how everyone feels about themselves. That's why we also have these chats, because like when you see something online, it's not the same as when you actually talk to people and they reveal like how it actually is. But yeah, it would be super interesting maybe to start with the question about, were you always thinking about becoming a marketing leader? When was the first time when you were like, this is where I want to be?
Yeah, I don't think I came from the get-go with the idea of, I really want to manage people. I think maybe it was even the opposite. I was thinking like, I really like doing the doing. So I don't have that much interest in becoming a team lead or manager or whatever. I didn't quite pursue it. I think it just happened to me. That first truly managerial role. I just came to a situation where there was already a person in a team. So it sort of grew from there.
Do you remember your first like true managing role? How did you feel? Were you scared? Were you excited?
I think when I was first told that I got the role, I was very excited because I have people in my team. It's not just going to be me by myself. It's very exciting. And yeah, it was quite interesting because when I started, we're sort of getting on with things. I wasn't quite sure how to delegate or how to give feedback. I was just feeling my way in. So it was stressful at times, frustrating at times, really fun at some other times, because we were such a small team. We were sort of us versus the world when we, have to do marketing for this tiny little thing. And there was some sorts of camaraderie that we had together. So the whole spectrum of emotions.
And maybe for the context, what was your background before that? And what was the team? Like how many people and what was the company?
My first truly managerial role was when I moved to Berlin. Before that, I was living in China and my roles were mostly individual contributors, but because of the nature how the business was done there, all the work that I have done was very high level of ownership and execution parameters, I guess. So we had to own quite a lot of marketing stuff. No one was telling us how to do global marketing. Like we were there to tell them. Because of that, I think that sense of ownership really translated for the role that I was applying for. And that first role was with Test Object. So it was the company that was acquired by Sauce Labs, is where we met. So I think I had a team of one when I started. I don't quite remember when exactly different people of the team came before or after acquisition. The first ever managerial role, I had one person.
So you were already hired as a manager. It's not like you started as an IC and then became a manager in that company.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, because I think a lot of people have this feeling that you have to first grow in the company. Like you cannot really become a manager when you also start like in a new company. I think there's like this fear, like how do I start in a new company and become a manager at the same time, especially if I didn't have a lot of experience. And that's interesting that it is actually possible and maybe just starting in a smaller team.
I think people overthink this.
Yeah.
So many people I speak to worry about, I can't apply for this role because they're looking for a manager that have experience managing teams. And I've never managed teams before. I've only managed one person. I have never managed anyone. everyone, but just go for it. Like, you never know what is the skill that is required. Maybe there isn't a team to manage right now. Because what they're looking for is someone that is able to grow the team. Or in the future, there will be a team that you will have to manage. And this is especially true for smaller companies. So managing people is something that you can train on the job. Companies can support you. So that's what you want. Do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They reject you. So on.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I love hearing like those different stories. For example, Moni, our previous manager with Valentina, she told us like, yeah, this is how it happened for me. Like, it's a very different story for you, for example. So everyone has their like own path to how to become a leader. I love hearing that. And coming to our origin story, do you remember how you hired me as an intern? Because a lot of people applying for their first roles, right, when they don't have any experience at all. And then the question for the managers, like, how do they find someone? And then from the people who are applying, like, how do they stand out?
I don't think you ever know if it's going to work out or not. It is, I think, the case regardless of whether it's a junior person or a senior person. And I think for your case, like, I remember seeing the question when you wrote like, oh, I had no marketing experience and you hired me. And I thought to myself, really? Like,
like, was it the case? I don't know.
Because I think, like, since I saw that question, I was trying to like dig my memory of what my thought process was. And I think you had some projects that you were working on. There were some things that you were doing that made me think like, okay, well, she is interested. She's trying to do something. Maybe, you know, let's chat and see what happens there. And I think that would be my suggestion for people who are new to the market. Like, what can you do before you start applying for jobs that would showcase your expertise or interest, like your desire to learn and take initiative? Because I think anything else is this initiative that people are looking for in juniors. Because if you don't have that drive, then you're unlikely to really learn and take ownership of things and become valuable to the business. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people that we know, for example, CEOs of like small startups, they're looking for this person who is junior so they can hire someone who is like really active, really motivated, but at the same time has all the experience in the world. Like, you should know how to do SEO and content marketing and ads and events. And sometimes we're looking at it, we're like, isn't that a bit too much? Like,
yeah, and I think there is maybe two sides of the same story. On one hand, I do think that sometimes when I see job descriptions where you're responsible for absolutely everything, I just have a little laugh and move on, because there's no point. I think there's some validation that you need to do when you're applying. If you see a job description that is clearly ridiculous, don't even bother, because if they are truly expecting you to do all of those things, like, you will be set to fail. So just don't do that. I mean, don't apply. You can fail. Failing is fine. But I think on the other hand, say you are a business owner or startup founder and you have no experience in marketing. Your founders have no experience in marketing, but you know that you really need to hire someone. So what can you do? Like, you will throw everything that is out there to say, okay, well, we will need help with all of this, right? Because this is marketing. It is part of your role. And maybe that's where the seniority comes in a little bit more. But part of your role is to tell people that actually we're going to focus on this thing and we're not going to do this thing. Because maybe our audience is not even on social media. Maybe they just read newspapers and they don't understand how TikTok works or LinkedIn works or Instagram or whatever. So it is only then when you can really identify what you're going to do and how you communicate it to your managers. But I sort of understand where people are coming from when they throw this super wide spectrum. And, you know, like, I think it's easy to ridicule this online, because for us, when we know how much work can actually go into each individual piece, it feels crazy, right? Like, we can have a laugh, but the actual need is real, because people don't know where to invest the resources or what tactics they should use. I mean, if they knew, why would they need us, right? Like, if they have their strategy figured out, then go for it. Like, to me, it's exciting to be able to come in and say, oh, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, let's not do this. If you were looking for like a broad role, maybe you don't actually want them to tell you, oh, we only need you to do ads and we need you to do content, and those will be the only things, because that them setting that strategy for you, so there is no discussion. So ebbs and flows. I went on a tangent here, but it's all about what you want from the role. If you feel like you have strong opinions and you want to drive that thing, then you can challenge that broad spectrum that they have presented. But if you want something to be more constrained, then maybe you don't even apply for those really broad roles and you just sort of try to specialize in one thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have a question a bit off topic, but you said failing is fine. And I'm wondering, are there any failures or fuck-ups at the beginning of your managerial career that you remember that at the time were like, oh my God, but now it's just something that you laugh at or you see as a learning opportunity or something like that?
I think there definitely are failures. Maybe one of them is not something that just happened at the beginning. It's something that I'm still learning how to do. And I think one of those learnings came from a conversation that I had with Paulina.
I know which one.
Yeah, when I was leaving Sauce Labs, I think we went for a walk or something like that. And it was probably the first time when I asked for feedback, which was sort of crazy, right? Now I ask people for feedback from me all the time, but at that time it didn't occur to me that I should do it. And Paulina is a smart woman. She gave me some really interesting insight, and she was telling me that, every time we had our one-on-ones, like we're just talking about tactics. Like you were not asking me how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. And at that point I felt like, someone hit me with a hammer. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? Maybe I assumed that if something was off, they would come and tell me. But it just never occurred to me to talk about life and how they're doing with the roles and how happy are they, how satisfied are they. It was just like, okay, where are you with this task? Like, where can I do? Like, what can I help? Like, what are we doing? So yeah.
Is that a big part of your role right now? How do you balance these two things?
I try asking people. Like, I also learned that I'm one of the people that will offer my thoughts to my boss very freely. So when I'm struggling or when I'm not having a good day, he knows. Like, oftentimes we had those little therapy sessions. I feel better. I feel like, oh, hey, this is amazing. But people that I manage right now, maybe they're not as forthcoming. So I need to spend more time diving deeper and really understand, okay, you're telling me everything is fine, but let's double click. Let's double click on that. Explain. Personality is one thing, but the tenure that you had with the company and how long you've been with your manager, it makes you feel like you can either talk to them more freely or not, because maybe at the beginning it's kind of difficult to admit that you are not feeling 100% all of the time, because you want to impress, you want to show people that you're here for a reason, you've got the goods.
Do you have good examples, though, at the start of your career? Because you said it never occurred to you to ask for feedback and to ask people how they were doing. Did you have managers that were like that?
Yeah, maybe not. Now that I think about it. I think it was very tactical. We were just looking at, okay, well, what are the deliverables? What are we doing? And I was sort of managing my own mental state by myself.
I recently heard someone complaining about that. The person was saying my manager is only asking me about my well-being and nothing else. And so there's some people who are actually expecting something different. So I think it's a lot about expectations, right? Some people maybe need something else, and balancing those things for different people. I think that's the hardest thing about being a manager, because everyone is just so different and you need to find those different approaches to everyone.
I think it's quite interesting, and I don't want to cause any alarm for people or make anyone overthink their situation with their boss. But maybe if your managers keep asking if something's off, it's because they think something's off. So maybe they see the performance drop, or you're not taking as much initiative as you had before, or the energy levels are down, whatever it might be. But maybe the person asking, the manager, is not as comfortable in being direct, actually telling you what they want to know. So they're trying to sort of go around it and then try to make you feel comfortable so you can tell them what's going on, because you also don't want to add to people's pressure. If you feel like they're struggling, you don't really want to go and say hey, I've seen you struggling. What's going on? Sometimes it's good to be open and say, I see something's off, let's talk about it. But yeah, very situational, so hard to tell.
We had one other conversation at some point about how do we learn not to take things personally, not stress out about criticism, or feedback. And I guess that when you know that the other person will take take it easy, then you can give more honest feedback. Do you feel like you improved in the way that you don't take things personally anymore at work?
I think what I would say is that there's a difference between criticism and feedback. Because to me, when I think about criticism, I often sort of imagine someone telling you something not to help you, but to help themselves, because they want to show they know something that you don't know, or you haven't been paying attention to this thing, but they have. So to me, that is more like a criticism in the workspace. And that is a much harder thing to take. And like whenever it happens to me, it pisses me off. But in the same time, I think if someone is criticizing you, maybe they have a reason. So at least have a try and listen to what they're saying. Maybe there's some nuggets that actually will prompt you to think differently, even though it's very, very uncomfortable. And I think feedback I take really well, if I can say so. And I think it's because usually the feedback that I am getting is coming from the people that I very much respect. And I know that they are saying things to make me a better manager, better marketeer, better communicator, whatever it might be. And I'm really eager to hear that feedback because I know it will, longer term, will make me feel better. But I think I don't take things personally when I know the feedback is coming from a place of support. And I think it's difficult to separate the feedback for the work that you do from the feedback of you as a person, because your work isn't necessarily you as a person. There's no overlap in value. And I think that distinction is really difficult to make, because we tend to think that at work make us successful, and therefore if we are not as successful, therefore we are not as great. No one is great 100% of the time. So I think when you get that feedback, it will make you a better employee, marketer, or whatever your role is. But I think it just takes time. I don't think there are many shortcuts that you can take to separate. It's just being open to that feedback, because sometimes you might be having a shit day and you are not in the mood to hearing anything. The purpose of the day is survival, and that's what we're doing. Let's postpone feedback to some other time when you are more receptive to it.
Not in January or February.
Or, just before an important product launch or important event. At that time, you know of so many things that could have been done better. Yes, But you are trying to make sure that what you're currently doing is not a total fail. So let's focus on that. Let's retrospect later. But that is a general feedback. If there is a feedback in the situation that you need to give, then do that. It's not great to wait with the situation that happened weeks ago, because who remembers that anyway?
You give out the impression, though, that you're very good at separating work from life and from not taking work back home. Or am I wrong from getting that impression?
I guess it depends what it is, because I wish I could tell you that as soon as I close my laptop at the end of the day, I'm free and never think about work and nothing stresses me out. But I can't, because it's not true. There are certain things that annoy me and certain things that don't, and I think that never changes. I think the more you sort of grow in your role, the more different challenges you will face, and the problems that you had before sort of become smaller in your mind because they were so distant. I don't think I'm great at separating work from life. I take a lot of my thoughts throughout the day and then sort of mull over that on my dog walks. And when I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't fall asleep, now is the best time to be thinking about work and things that you can't actually action right there, right now.
What are the biggest struggles and maybe challenges that you think you had throughout your career? It would be nice to hear what other people are struggling with. You're okay, I'm not the only one. That's good.
So one of the struggles that I had that maybe relates to being a manager or being a leader is, how do you quantify your success? And especially in marketing, my inclination is to tie my success to the financial success of the company. And if for whatever reason that is not going at the rate we want to go, or the speed, or whatever that may be, it's difficult to think that I can be successful if that financial outcome is not there. So I think one of those learnings is to realize to yourself that the entire financial health of the company does not depend on one person, which is funny to say, but I think for some of us, it might be an ego thing, or maybe a strong sense of wanting to be of value. But if the company is not working well, it's not because of you alone. There are many factors to it. And to build on that, how do you define your success as a leader So for a long while, I didn't even consider like the team health as a successful metric. And it was only when I burned out, I had to leave one of my previous jobs, and I had some therapy, and my therapist was asking like, oh, well, what was your success in your previous role? And I was sobbing. I was like, no success. There was no success. Not at all. And she asked me, well, tell me about your team. And then I was like, oh yeah, it was really great. Like we had such a great relationship, and it was this, it was that. And I saw them growing. And she was like, and then you tell me there were no successes. And to me, that was another hammer in the head. I was like, oh yes, this is important. This is something I should be recognizing as a good thing. Like the retention, the growth of people and their engagement in work, or, like how they are with other people, how they are working with the rest of the team. Like that's really important. And it's something that I value quite a lot right now.
I had a lot of thoughts on that, because as marketers, I think we struggle a lot to prove ROI, right? And I think that was one of the first questions I asked you on the interview, like, but how do you know that the marketing team is successful? And the funniest thing is that I asked that to myself to this day. It's like nothing changed. I didn't even have any experience in marketing back then, but it's like 6 years later, it's the same. So what was your experience proving ROI as a marketer to whoever you had to do that?
I think it is revenue, and like it's difficult to say anything otherwise, because like you can be a great leader and your team can love you and you can have the best dynamic and you can be working really hard on something, but if you're not bringing in pipeline, if you're not bringing in the revenue, I think it's difficult to say that you are truly successful in your marketing role, because that's what we are here to do. It's, I guess, not as linear comparison to sales, but we are in that ballpark. Like we need to be generating some form of monetary value, and if it doesn't happen for whatever reason, then you have to think about pivoting and to be thinking about like, okay, well, what are the things that I'm missing? Like why I can't do my best work, and then you work with the teams around you to figure out what needs doing and what are the things that you need to test. But I do think the revenue is almost like the ultimate metric of success.
Would you recommend for like every marketer to always track that as one of the marketing metrics, or is that just something to keep an eye on?
I mean, what else would you track? I feel like there is danger in marketing in over-indexing on those small metrics, like, oh, we had a great open rate on this email, or like our click-through rate on those ads, amazing. And like, look how many leads we've got. And so many people downloaded our ebook. And like those are great things because it makes you feel like you're doing something. And if you see like your follower count is going up, that's validation, right? And we need all of that, especially in like B2B SaaS, like the sales cycles are so long. So it may be a long time before you can truly tell like what brought that piece of revenue. And, there are a lot of like attributions and all that stuff. But I think if people are too attached to their campaign metrics, they are almost losing sight on why they're doing what they're doing. So I would encourage every marketer to be trying to tie the link between what they're doing to the monetary value. And I think it's sort of easy to imagine with like digital advertising, like, how many leads you've got, like, how many MQLs you've got, whatever, or events, how many leads you got from an event. But then if you're a PMM, like you can still do that. You can still look at, okay, well, here's the product launch that we've done, or this is the product feature that we've done. How many people did we bring on the back of that? Like, what is the messaging that helped us do that? Because if you just think about it as a checklist to take off, like, oh yeah, press release done, blog post done, LinkedIn done, then is it actually doing something, or is it just a little thing that you're doing on the side that no one cares about? Because if that's the latter, then you need to change what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess the reason why a lot of marketers don't link that is because there are like a lot of other steps in the process, because there's like sales team involved and there are like things that we cannot track. That's why we feel like uncomfortable to have that link all the time. And we're like, we are just doing what we can do, what we can control, but there are other things that we cannot.
Yeah, and I think maybe what can help is having that closer alignment with sales and marketing, because like one of the metrics that we have is something that we're calling a high intent revenue opportunity. And that essentially is a metric that we, like all of us share. there. So obviously I have the amount of heroes that I need to bring. Sales has X amount of heroes they need to bring, but we're going for like the same criteria. So it needs to be a customer from our ICP that they need to have like a very strong intent, which literally means they're coming to our contact us page and telling us that they need a demo, they have a project they're working on. It's not an ebook download or like intent ping on some platform. They're telling us that they want to do something. And after first call we had with them, we think, or our sales team thinks, that there's potential to do more. And only then we are able to qualify it as a hero. And then after that, we can tell what is the revenue or the pipeline that we created on the back of that. Because I mean, like, I understand, like, it's not that I want to come across as I'm sitting on my high horse telling everyone to be like super revenue orientated and sort of disregard the challenges that come with it, because it is not easy. And there are just so many different models. Like you have attribution models, like first touch, last touch, you know, like how many different campaigns touch this, influence pipeline, influence revenue. And like we're doing all of that, prove the value to people that are controlling the money, because we want to invest more in the team. We want a bigger team. We need more budget, because like we understand the value of what we are doing. But if we are not comfortable sitting in that revenue conversation, that we will never have the same weight, because we'll always be this, you know, support on the side that does, we were doing little ads and we have this little thing here that it is not easy.
Do you still prioritize more long-term things like content marketing, SEO, since you're very revenue orientated, or do you not put your focus on that and do more like ads and stuff?
Yeah, I guess we don't do a lot of like long-term work. I think it's about looking at your resources and trying to figure out where is the biggest hole that you can plug. So that is one piece of it. And the other piece of my approach is really trying to understand where our audience is and how they're getting information. So I think in our case, optimizing for, or like working with like written content and SEO is probably not something that I would be inclined to do, just because our category is not super set. So there isn't a set of nomenclature that people are using that I know that they would type. Like even recently we were trying to do some Google ads and we were putting together this big keyword list, but like the search volumes are so small and everyone is describing it in a different way. So just from that practical reason, there is not much sense in us investing in that. And most of the times when people are looking for a solution like ours, they will ask their peers, they will talk to their colleagues, they will talk to their ex-colleagues or whoever. So this is how they find information. They're not necessarily Googling it a huge amount. So you need to do what works best for your audience. And sometimes it's not SEO, and it's not because we're not prioritizing long-term approach. It's just because that thing is not for us.
And what do you prioritize then? What works best for your particular case?
It depends on the objective. I don't want to say like it depends all the time, but last year we were doing something completely different than this year because our business needs change. Like we need to do something different. So like last year or the year before, we really spent a lot of time educating the market about the problem. But with the rise of LLMs, everyone is getting on board. Everyone's getting really excited, and people start to understand that the problem that we previously thought was unsolvable actually is now solvable with help of AI, and we can be a lot faster, etc., etc. So we're going to be doing less educational piece, but more of that demand capture piece, where we want to, you know, get as many logos as we can to sort of dominate the market while we can, because we think that there are so many competitors that are coming up. So what we're focusing on right now is getting those opportunities into the pipeline, because our sales cycle is really long, and then also the nature of our industry is such that once you sign with a customer, the deals are usually 2 or 3 years long. So say our competitor signs a contract with one of our target accounts, it means that we won't be able to really do any competitive plays with them for the next 2 or 3 years. So that's what I mean. Like we really need to do what the business needs rather than what's been working for us in the past or what the idea of marketing is that we have in our head.
I think it's a good time to maybe give some context on like the business itself. Like what does your company do?
Yeah, so we are an insurtech. So it's like fintech, but for insurance. And we are only selling to commercial insurance. So a commercial insurance you have a corner shop and you need insurance for that corner shop. So like property insurance or liability insurance. So this is what our customers are selling. Now, what we are selling to them is a piece of software that is helping them, to put it simply, digitize the data they have coming in, because every shop owner will work with a broker and they will create a submission to tell them all about their business. And when insurer gets it, it's very unstructured, very analog. So we help digitize all of those data points that are coming in to make them workable for the insurer. I was trying to make it as simple as I can, but it's a very, very niche solution, which makes it difficult to just say, oh, we do project management tool or whatever.
Yeah, I think you've always worked in different tech companies, and as a marketer in tech, how technical do you need to be? Do you have like any tips for people who are maybe not so technical and thinking of like, do I need to learn something specific? How did you navigate that?
I think the more technical you can be, the better for you, because it is such a superpower to be able to like talk to your engineers, talk to your product team, and actually talk to your customers. Because when you are just talking on a very superficial level, the conversation will only go this far. If you are able to, demo the product and truly understand it, you can have better conversations with your development team, but also better conversation with your sales team, because when they come back to you and say like, oh, but our customer says this, or what are we doing with that? Then you are able to have a conversation that is on the equal footing. So I would advise anyone to invest time in becoming more technical, whatever that means for them. Like, I'm not saying that we need to become developers or coders or anything like that, but being proficient with the demo of your product is needed. And it's difficult when you're a one person or two people team and you don't have time for that, because everything else is on fire and you need to do that thing. But whenever you can, like, it's an investment worth making.
How to do that? Do I just Google it and read articles? You watch YouTube videos, or would you recommend something else?
To learn about your own product?
Yeah. So for example, if you want to understand your customers better, your product better, and it's like super technical, for example, your previous company, I think it was about Kubernetes, right? Like, what is Kubernetes? Like, no one in the non-tech world knows about it. And to understand it, I think it takes a bit of time. So how do you nail that?
Yeah, the previous role was extremely technical. When I joined Cytora, the team was telling me how very complex our solution was. And I was thinking, like, it's not easy, but it's also not that complex. I think spend time with your engineering team. Like, they do demos. I think if they're not doing demos, they should, because they're developing a thing for a while. So they actually want to show it to you or to people in the company, because engineers are usually like proud of what they're building. So if you ask, I'm sure they'll be happy to show you. And that is the technical view. But who in the company right now knows the most about the product? What is your sales team using right now? Are they comfortable doing demo? Can they show you how they do the demo? Can you join some calls with initial calls with the customer? Is there a demo call with like 20 people involved so you can join and no one else notices? There's some random person there that's not going to say anything. And if not, can they record it? Can they send it to you? Can you work with someone in your team that is doing demos all the time? And can they coach you? Can they listen to your demos? Can they give feedback on your demos? So I think it is, just working with people that have the knowledge right now and see how much you can get from it, and try to look for opportunities to like be uncomfortable with the product. So like, we have a new PMM, and you really need to be very, very intimately familiar with the product. And it's a difficult thing. So we were thinking, okay, well, what can we do? Like, we have a fair amount of people coming into the company, as in like new employees. We're growing pretty fast. So we thought, well, let's throw poor Jake into like deep water and have him demo the product to our new joiners. I mean, the stakes are fairly low, there's like, people will see more demos. There isn't, any big mistake that he can make that will cause us like a loss of contract or whatever. But he gets more familiar with the product, like, because he needs to. But actually, we're also telling our new joiners how it looks like, and we are getting them excited and we're getting them familiar with the product. I think most of people in the company should be able to do a demo. And I'm saying it so confidently, but it's been a long time since I demoed our product. It's something that I'm really much looking forward to doing again. But the lack of knowledge of the product is only definitely a downside.
Totally. I remember the struggle when I used to work at technical teams and I was like, oh my God, do we need to demo again? But yeah, thank you for sharing the tips. I don't know, Valentin, if you have any additional questions to this topic. Otherwise, marketing trends. Are there any trends that you're excited about, that you're thinking about when you wake up at 2 a.m.?
I'm not thinking about any trends at 2 a.m. But I think I'm probably going to repeat what a lot of people said, but I think the use of AI is quite interesting. I'm not too keen on writing a whole lot of copy or creating images with AI, but I think I'm trying to think about what it can do for us to help us understand our customers better, or how we can build on top of the content that we already have. So we have this really amazing podcast and there's a wealth of information in there. And can I use AI to create content on the back of that? Because it already exists. We're not generating anything new, but can we pick up trends? Can we share that with our listeners or our customers? What are the golden nuggets that we can find from it that maybe I wouldn't even remember? I listen to every podcast, every episode that we have, but it's been going for quite some time. I don't remember every one of them. And if I were to pull some trends, I probably could, but if AI could do that for me more confidently, I would not mind. And I know that's already somewhat available, but I haven't tried that yet.
Are there any interesting use cases for marketers that you tried so far with AI that you would recommend?
We did a voiceover for some videos that we've done. It was actually quite interesting because we needed to do something really, really quickly. And we haven't had a person that we were working on with a regular basis that we knew that we can just give it to them and be ready. Because also in a typical startup fashion, we were also not 100% done with the script. So the script was changing. And, once you're working with someone, they expect you give them a piece of script, they read it, they perfect it because, that's what they do. And that's their job done. But we were still tweaking and changing things. So I thought, okay, well, let's use AI to see if we can do it that way. And it was quite easy for me to just swap different words and increase the speed or intonation. So it actually felt quite natural. So yeah, that was quite interesting.
Nice. Yeah, no, for sure. I think a lot of marketers are excited to see what's coming next. We're using it a lot, but as you said, it's not we're generating text or images. It's more a workflow, right? The general. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Maybe if you want to recommend something to our listeners, I think our main target audience are marketers who are either aiming or striving to become leaders or just building their career and want to understand how to navigate this changing world and to succeed in it. So if you have any tips in general.
How to succeed in this current world, you're asking me?
Not an easy question.
No, not an easy question. No. I'd probably say two things. So, and it will be quite sort of general, maybe not marketing specific, but I think a lot of times we talk about this imposter syndrome and everyone talks about how they feel like a fraud all the time. And I feel like maybe we over-index on that imposter syndrome. I mean, there will always be some anxiety about doing something new and not having all the answers all the time, but it's just part of life in general. So I guess even if you're a parent, no one teaches you how to be a parent. Not that I know, but what I'm getting at is that we should just do more, think less, because this was the worst thing that can happen, honestly. I mean, there are some bad things that can happen. I'm not saying that there are never any consequences of what we're doing, but in the roles that we are at and things that we are trying to do, it's okay if things don't work out. Just figure out what to do next, figure out how to improve it, and then just keep going and worry about your worries a bit less. And maybe the other thing that I would tell people when it comes to the success in the roles, one of the best pieces of advice I got a number of years ago was to make my plan known. So a lot of times you would be expecting that your manager will figure out what is it that you need or what is it that you want. Like, you've been working in this company for a year or two, and you think like, oh yeah, promotion's coming. It is most certainly coming. And it isn't coming for whatever reason. Then you feel like you're being cheated, like you are not being recognized for your role. And then you voice that frustration to your manager, like, oh, where's my promotion? Like, I was expecting to be a senior now. Like, what's happening? And then your manager is in the position, like, oh, I had no idea. Well, actually, you're like, in my view, you're not a senior yet, because like this thing and this thing and this thing. So if they had known that this is where you wanted to be, you would be able to work with them to get you to that point where they think you're ready for that promotion or you're ready for that extra piece of responsibility that you wanted. But if you don't communicate your plan, then you will automatically delay the outcome because you're just surprising them. So I communicated my plan to my manager a year before it happened. So we were working throughout this entire year, and I was asking, okay, where are the gaps that I need to plug for you to feel like I'm ready for this new step? If you think like, oh, you want to be go from junior to medium or senior or whatever, the jump is always the same, and you need that ally in your manager to help you get there, because otherwise they're just blissfully unaware. They literally have no idea. If you don't tell them, they don't know.
This is such a brilliant piece of advice. I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Daria. It was really, really nice to talk to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for sharing.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, and good luck with what you guys are doing. I'm loving seeing all the updates. It feels you've got your shit together.
Before we let you go, though, we have an important question to ask. What's your favorite soup, Daria?
My favorite soup? I would say there's a soup with roasted peppers and chorizo, and it's all like a creamy soup. There's a little bit of cream and, I guess, onions. And
doesn't sound Polish.
No, it isn't. I got it from like a device that's somewhat similar to Thermomix, and they had the recipe in that. So you just throw everything in there, and it comes up with this magnificent deliciousness. Now that you mention it, I'm thinking like,
If you find it, you should share it so that we can share with other people.
What did we learn from Daria? Okay, I really like that she was willing to be transparent and to share her failures, basically, because it takes a lot to recognize when you did something wrong, and also to learn from that. Like, she mentioned that when she started, when in her first managerial roles, it's not that she couldn't, maybe she wasn't aware of the fact that she had to ask for feedback, and she never asked for feedback from the people that she was managing.
It's
and
not obvious, actually. Like, it's not obvious that you should ask that, right? Yeah. I wouldn't think of that as well.
Yeah, but I think it's also because of this idea that we have these hierarchies. And in startups, exactly. They say, we have no hierarchies. Like you do. Like, you have someone managing you. It's on top of you. So you don't feel like you are allowed to share your thoughts on how they're doing their work. They are the ones telling you how you're doing your job, if it's going well or if it's not. But yeah, she said that she didn't do that, and that had a negative impact on how things were going, and that she also didn't prioritize at the start basically the well-being of the team, and she was prioritizing mostly making revenue and proving that marketing was like this function that creates revenue for the company. And then she realized that as a manager, you have to do both things. You have to prove the results, the business results, but you also have to develop your team, and you have to take care of them, and have to have like a back and forth communication. The feedback goes both ways. So I think that was really cool that she was able to recognize that and own up to it.
Yeah. That's true. It's, I guess, the most difficult thing about this job, that you have to do both, like sometimes babysitting, but also like making sure that everyone is doing their best work. And yeah, I've never been to this role, but I can imagine that it's tough. Yeah, I think my favorite thing was the tip about that you should always ask for opportunities. I wish I heard that earlier, because it's just also not obvious. Like, it's just not something that goes naturally to you. Like, for example, once my ex-boyfriend, he was interviewing for a job, and he wanted to have like a leader / team lead position, but they didn't have that role at that point, and they were just interviewing him for a senior role. And then he just mentioned that, like, this is my ambition, I would love to have that at some point, even if you don't have it right now. And he actually got promoted even before he started the job, because they realized they need someone in the team. And that's just such a good example of, like, you just need to be vocal. Like, if he kept it for himself, like they would never know that that's his ambition. Then maybe they would ask someone in the team already. But yeah, it's just something that no one teaches you to do. And like when I was working at different teams, I never really thought of like saying, this is my ambition in 1 year or like in 2 years, like this is my plan. And it's just so nice and natural. And I think it's awesome when someone does it, but it's also not like something that I would think of.
I think it's because we have this idea in our societies of meritocracy, and the person that is deserving is the one that is going to get the prize. So you think that, oh, I'm doing a good job, I'm going to get the promotion. That's just the natural way of things happening. But the person that is actually, putting themselves out there and saying, oh, I want these things. And it's also doing the work to fill in the gaps. Okay, if I want to be a manager, what do I need to learn and to do to become a manager, which is also something that Daria talked about. Then that is the person that is probably going to get the position, not the one that has been doing a good job, but has never even said that they want to be a manager, because not everyone wants to be in a leadership position. A lot of people are happy just being an individual contributor because of that same thing that we talked about. Managing people and developing people is not something that everyone wants to take on. It's not an easy role. And you also like finding that balance of the business results versus the people management. Some people focus too much on the people management, and they focus too much on being like, oh, how are you feeling, and being your friend, and then they leave on the side. The business results fall to the side. So it's a difficult role. It's a difficult set of new responsibilities. And if you don't say that you want them, people are going to probably assume that you don't want them.
Exactly. It's like, for a manager, like it's also like, how can you know and how can you tell? Like it's probably very unlikely that someone is going to come and be like, hey, do you want this role? Like it might happen, but also like if you don't say anything, that it's very unlikely that it's going to happen. And when I started my career, I definitely didn't realize that. I heard from other people that you should always ask for a promotion in terms of money or your title, but I never thought of like making a plan to actually get those titles, So yeah, I think that's a really, really nice and useful tip, and just like a mindset shift to have.
I think probably some people would say, oh, but your manager should ask you. And sure, I mean, if your manager is in charge of your business development, they should ask you. But I think more often than not, they probably won't. They also have a lot of other shit going on. And I think it's on you to say what you want. It's also like in relationships, like if you don't tell your partner what you want, they cannot read your mind. Even if they probably should ask you. There are some things that just won't happen if you don't voice them. So yeah,
I agree. It's very similar, to relationships, especially, for example, like there's one thing that I think a lot of women struggle with is to say that when they, for example, start dating, they're like, especially now in this culture of like, oh, it's like we're just casually dating. And women are really scared to say, I want something serious, I want a family, or I want kids. And it's, I think, a bit similar because it like, if you ask, oh, I want to be a manager, it puts you in a bit of a like insecure position, like have to be vulnerable. Yeah, exactly. But you don't realize that if you say it to the right person, they will never say, oh, what is that? Like, and if they say something like that, then maybe they're just not the right person. And it's the same with the company. If you say, this is my ambition, and they're like, why are you asking for this? That's also a great sign. That's a great outcome to be like, okay, this is not the right place to be in for me. And that's great information. So I think, you can only win if you do something like that.
My grandma always says, and my mom always says too, that the no is already a given. You can only go and try to get a yes. And if you don't ask for it, then a no, it's always going to be a no.
Exactly. So. Well, that was super useful, I think, for us and hopefully for our listeners as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
One thing that she mentioned, which is learning how to do what's right for the business and not like just following trends or just doing something just because it's good for other businesses. So for them, she mentioned specifically that they don't do SEO because they have a very niche product and people don't look for it. And it makes sense that for them not to do SEO because it won't bring the business results that the other initiatives that they're tackling do bring. And I think it's also important to keep in mind with all of this AI trends and all of the buzz that keeps happening around certain topics online, to not just go quickly and try this thing out if it doesn't make sense for your business. Like just focus on the things that will bring business results that you need and that align with your business goals, and then tackle those projects. That's big learning from talking to Daria too.
It's true.
sometimes you read someone's case study or something, and they're like, wow, this is such an amazing thing, I should do it as well. But then only makes sense if you think of your customers again, if they're there, like if it's something that aligns with your goals. And I guess it's not an easy thing to do, but I think that's a really cool thing that some marketers and some leaders can do that. I guess that's our chit chat, and we hope that you also have someone to talk about